From WHYY and Billy Penn, it is Hittin season. Hey there, podcast pals. I'm John Stolnis from The Good Fight and Billy Penn. You can follow me on X and Blue Sky at John Stolnis. Coming up, temperature check on these Phils of ours as they begin a 4-game series with the Giants at Citizens Bank Park, coming off a road trip that was pretty disgusting, if we're being honest with ourselves. But is this just a 1-week blip, or are there larger concerns that we should be taking a look at here, even though we are only about 7% of the way through the season? We'll talk about all of the stuff that happened in the road trip. We'll rate our concerns on some of the players that, of course, we've been talking a lot about. Kyle Schwarber extension news from Ken Rosenthal over the weekend. Not great news, it doesn't seem, but we don't really know. And I do want to finish the podcast talking about some positive developments that we saw during the road trip in Atlanta and in St. Louis. Yes, there are a couple sprinkled in like little bits of chocolate jimmies on your Sunday. So joining me to talk about it here on the roundtable edition of the podcast, of course, Justin Klugh and Liz Roscher. Liz Roscher, you follow her on X and Blue Sky at Liz Roscher. Liz, in her nice greens, is that a shawl or a scarf you've got on? It's lovely. What is that?
Thank you. It's a scarf I made.
It's lovely.
Thank you.
Is your home chilly?
Yeah, it was pretty cold today. I don't know why.
It's those early spring days right now where it's really, really chilly until about 11:30. And then if you're in the sun, you're like wishing you were in shorts. That's kind of where we are in the spring. And then it'll rain like cats and dogs from like 6 o'clock on. That's where we are.
Yeah, I always forget. I'm like, March is always a rough month until April hits, and I'm just like, April's also kind of crappy because it's just like gray for the next 2 weeks. I had something I wanted to say, and now I don't remember what it was. Oh, hey, I do have something to say. Hey, now that since I've been laid off from Yahoo Sports, you have not been able to give me any title when you've been introducing me, but now you can.
Yes.
The new issue of the Baseball Research Journal by the Society for American Baseball Research has been released into the world, and now everyone knows that I am now the incoming editor of the Baseball Research Journal for at least the fall 2025 issue. So
right.
yeah. What happened?
Yeah, it says your recording stopped due to a media disconnect. It sounded like your microphone came undone there.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you're not on your microphone anymore.
Okay, sorry.
The good news is with Riverside, I can splice this together with the video so we can continue to record the video. But yeah, just try reconnecting your microphone.
This news was so good it broke the recording.
That's right. Or we could just keep going because this is how live podcasting works, ladies and friends. Well, that's great news. Congratulations, Liz. How can people get a hold of this thing, by the way?
You can go to saber.org and order it online. Or you can become a member of Saber and for, I think it's $60 a year, and get it for free twice a year, along with the National Pastime, which is our less peer-reviewed summertime convention journal, which I will also be editing.
All right. Well, that's great news, Liz. Congratulations. That should be a lot of fun to do that. Yes, you're on the bench for too long. Yahoo Sports idiotically letting go Liz, along with a number of other people over the course of these last few weeks and months, just totally abandoning solid journalism entirely.
Not living up to their name at all. Very few people shouting Yahoo anymore in response to Yahoo.
I am still
more like
full-time employment. This is not full-time employment. This is not full-time.
Right.
If you have full-time employment to offer me, please let me know. Or if you know of any, please let me know.
Yeah, hit us. Hit Liz on the socials. You can also send that to hittinseason@billypenn.com. You know, that's our email address here at the show, but we're happy to take it on all different kinds of online accounts. Justin Klugh from Baseball Prospectus, of course, and The Dirty Inning, and Absolutely Hammered on our Hittin Season Patreon. Follow him on Blue Sky at Justin Klugh. Justin, how's it going, bud?
Tonight, during the game, There we go. Tonight during the game, while Taijuan Walker was pitching, there's a guy who keeps, he's sitting behind home plate, keeps waving at that camera. I assume he's volunteering to pitch, and the Phillies are not letting him. And I feel like that's just another tally on the things the Phillies have done wrong.
Another Dave Dombrowski mistake. Yep.
He's right there, guys. Right there. And I don't know if you see, but Taijuan Walker is still on the mound. I don't know. Yeah. That seems...
Oh, my God.
Problematic.
Listen, if you throw out the 6 runs in the first inning, he's pitching a shutout looking phenomenal. I mean, out there on the mound tonight.
I think it was even the second inning, so he got through one clean one. That's pretty good. And yes, I'm aware of his previous few starts. I'm aware.
Well, yeah, the previous start, he didn't even go 5 innings. So, yes, I'm glad he didn't give up any runs in that start. But, you know, he's not knocking on the door of Cy Young territory here. So, yeah, this is kind of what we thought we would get with the Taijuan Walker experience. But I don't talk a whole lot. We can talk a little bit about this first game against the Giants, but it's in progress as we're recording. The Phillies scored 3 in the first, and we thought, hey, bats scoring early in this economy? Are you kidding me? And then Taijuan Walker comes out and gives out 6 runs in the bottom of the first, and as we're recording this here in the 5th inning, it's a 6-3 Giants lead, and the Phillies just not, and they had a second and third with nobody out opportunity, by the way, in the bottom of the 4th after a Max Kepler infield single and an Alec Boehm double off the wall. I mean, I get why you hold Max Kepler there, but you've got to know the Phillies aren't scoring a run with second and third and nobody out. Not with Johan Rojas there to strike out, not with Bryson Stott there to fly out to shallow left field, and not with Trey Turner there to ground out to the pitcher. I mean, Liz, that was the road trip that the Phillies just went on in St. Louis and Atlanta. Like, that scenario was the road trip. And that is why they went 2-4. They still are 9-6 in second place in the East. They're just one game behind the Mets. Season isn't over or anything like that yet. But that's why fans are so annoyed and frustrated, is that it's the same thing that we've seen from this team at different points every year. Really, it doesn't look like at this moment, this Phillies team here in 2025 is in any way at all different from the second half 2024 team that kind of stumbled down the stretch and didn't do much against the Mets in the division series. And that, I think, is the big worry among Phillies fans right now. I'm going to get a temperature check from you. How are you feeling at the moment?
I mean, I could be feeling better, for sure. I could be feeling better. The Phillies aren't looking great. They're looking a lot like they used to, and we all probably should have expected that, considering the team itself didn't change a lot in the way it looked this year. But it's still pretty demoralizing. You hope that, you know, they would be able to make some small changes, but it's just like watching another game from last year, you know, watch from the second half of last year, where it's just like you're shaking your fist and you're really very angry. It's still early.
Yeah, I mean, it's
not to be angry, but it's tough.
Well, that's the problem, because the answer is it's not too early. And I said that's the answer, and no one asked a question. But that's the kind of show this is. The Phillies didn't used to be this way. They are this way. It is April of 2025, but it is October for these Phillies. It is winter for these Phillies. So we're allowed to be annoyed at players we've seen do this same stuff, because if you're going to bring back the same team, then everybody's going to be able, and has been, going back to like last year to create these sections of futility for certain members of the offense. And you can't do anything but say, yeah, I mean, that's legit. Like, that's legit, because you didn't change and they didn't change. And we've all been talking about how the offensive approach hasn't changed, and it's going to be more of the same. And more of the same means being frustrated a lot of the time.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing, is it's impossible to watch this team and not be frustrated and to react as such. And, you know, I get the online, you know, community, and I want to be this way, where I don't want to overreact to one bad week, because that's really what it was. They played well the first couple of weeks of the season. This was one bad week where the offense has completely gone away. You could be the Atlanta Braves at 4-11. They did not follow up their series win against the Phillies with a good series the following over the course of the weekend. I think
which is really the same thing as the Phillies winning that series, honestly. That they lost the series but weren't used as Atlanta's getting back on track thing.
Yeah,
that is a huge win for the Phillies, I will say.
Right. Yeah. We were not the springboard to an Atlanta rebound, which is good for me. But I think what's interesting here, guys, is Rob Thompson has been shaking the lineup up more at the start of this year than I think we've ever seen him do. Brandon Marsh, who we'll talk about more in just a second, has been in a real downward spiral. He did not start the game on Monday, and Rob Thompson said he thought maybe he would give him a few days off to kind of clear his head because he was really down on himself, really down on his inability to help the team. He has looked lost, not just against left-handers, but against right-handers. But join the club, man. We've just decided to focus on Brandon Marsh for these last couple of days. I guess it's kind of like the news cycle. You can only talk about one terrible thing or one depressing thing for so long before you need to shift your attention to something else. And that's kind of what we've gone from Alec Boehm. We've gone to now to Brandon Marsh. I would imagine Max Kepler is probably up next on the list, and then maybe JT Realmuto. I mean, you can move on down the line here. There's going to be different guys because very few players in this lineup are hitting really well. I'll throw a little shade at Trey Turner and Bryce Harper too, who are not really being the $300 million players that Phillies had signed. But again, it's still really early. I guess my main question, Justin, I'll throw this at you first, is do you feel like the Phillies maybe are losing a little confidence in themselves, or that they're searching for it right now because of all the lineup changes and the different ways that Rob Thompson's trying to, put Brandon Marsh on the bench here, and we're going to hit Bryson Stott lead off now, and we got to find some way to protect Bryce Harper in the lineup, so now we're going to put Kyle Schwarber down here and bat the two lefties back to back. I mean, I don't know what to make of all of these different kinds of things right now. I mean, I have a feeling, but I'm curious what you think.
Kind of feels like we're speed running a Phillies season, and that it's April 14th, and we've kind of done already the yay, it's back, and the offense is good, and the Phillies are good. Oh, I'm mad at Alec Boehm. I'm mad at Brandon Marsh. I'm mad at, it just feels like we're having all these July conversations in April.
We're going to run out of steam by the end of the month.
But honestly, first of all, if they'd won like all their games except for one by now, the complaint would be, they're just going to burn out in the second half like they did last year. So I would honestly be cool with them maintaining a winning record, not just like a game over 500, but like a significant winning record, and quietly just being like a good team. I would rather them do that than dominate, because then you're just introducing that point, and I think it does make it more likely they would burn out by the end. But also, they just they've packed so much in, because it feels like my original point that we've known this team for so long, and so it feels like we're already at these points of the season because we've been watching this team have these same issues for years and years. So they've also gone to the playoffs every single one of those years. It's the other part of that. So I'm not struggling with people being frustrated. I'm not struggling with them not having solutions. I'm just what you're talking about with Rob Thompson being like, let's shake things up. That feels like that's the difference. That's the difference between last year and this year, or the last few years and this year, is that for some reason, whatever reason, Topper's decided he's ready to be a little more fluid with things like the lineup, with things like player usage. It's very early in the season for someone to be being sat for 3 games because they can't get their head on straight. Why isn't your head on straight? It's April 14th. Isn't that what spring training is for? Spring training is twice the length of the regular season thus far, so you should probably still be okay. But, here we are. I'm glad that Topper's able to, he's not locked in to particular lineups, or we're not having continuous conversations of like, well, this guy, he's this, he's our center fielder, we're going to keep playing him. Only way out is through, blah, 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 blah. So, okay, if Topper thinks these are the best ways to go about it, the main thing he's good at is handling his guys. So I trust his ability to know what's best for his players. But ultimately, this is coming from a place of ineffectiveness, which you just get tired of seeing. And I really think it's as simple as that. People, us, the Phillies themselves, the coaches, the front office, everybody is tired of watching this team not be the team that they're built to be. We talked about how, I compared him to the Chainsaw Maniac last week, and that got a couple of responses, honestly. And that's an accurate portrayal, but you know what? The Chainsaw Maniac isn't in a lot of the movie. So that's, you can make a big impact, but you gotta be on screen to do it.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's true. And I think, Liz, that's the thing that, if this was a new group of players and they were playing like this, it would be one thing. But, I guess the question is, at another point too, if lineup changes don't work, and these guys who were making progress under Kevin Long a couple of years ago are now struggling mightily. I mean, it's good to see Alec Boehm hit a double off the wall here in the game on the Monday night game here against the Giants, but there hasn't been. The offense has struggled for long periods of time. It's also been good at different periods of time. Is Kevin Long's job in jeopardy at all? I mean, I really do wonder that, given how much they're changing things around. It feels almost like this team feels an extra sense of urgency. Like, this is probably the last shot all these guys have together.
Yeah, Kevin Long, we're in however many year whatever of this iteration of the team, and just like the previous good iteration of this team, they're having offensive issues, and you blame it's the hitting coach. So we'll see what they do. I'll be interested to see if they let him go, because Kevin Long has done a lot of great things for the Phillies, and I know that a lot of other teams are dying to have him do those good things for them. So if the Phillies, we'll see how eager they are to unleash him on the larger market.
Kevin Long's a great hitting coach. I think if the offense remains the primary issue for this team, he's going to get fired. We're in the territory where they would do that, not because he's a bad hitting coach, but because that's the button you push. And year 4 is, yes, he is. I think he is now totally susceptible to being dropped as the answer, quote unquote, for anyone not watching the video, I'm making finger quotes, the answer to fixing the offense, because obviously the offense isn't going to fix itself.
No, these players are not going to fix themselves, and the regression we've seen from some of these guys like Boehm and Marsh have been notable, and it goes back to last All-Star game. I mean, this isn't just like, oh my gosh, what's happened this week? Like, this was an off-season storyline that we were talking about. Will these guys bounce back? Will they be able to do this? Well, and they haven't here in the early going. And so you're right. There's only you can't trade Brandon Marsh. You can't trade Alec Boehm. You can't substitute other guys in. I mean, you bring up Gabriel Rincones Jr., maybe. Brandon Marsh has options left. You could send Brandon Marsh down to the minors. That would certainly shake a lot of different things up. I just don't see that happening. I would bet that they would let Kevin Long go before they would demote Brandon Marsh. That's just my read of the situation, because that would amount to me a total failure on the part of the coaching staff to manage this guy and get more out of him. So I don't know. I'm getting a lot of eye rolls as I say that. Is that it seems inconceivable Brandon Marsh could get sent down to the minors, but
I'm sorry that you saw those and thought they were eye rolls. That was looking into that scenario and imagining. I don't think you're not doing that because you're like, Brandon Marsh belongs in the minors and Gabriel Rincones Jr. belongs in the. You're doing that kind of just to see what happens.
Yes,
and I think that's a good enough reason to do it. When your offense is just flailing around like that, not hitting with runners in scoring position, what have you. Brandon Marsh going hitless in 26 bats and needing 3 games off. Yeah, push the button. Like, what are we waiting for? I just want to see Gabriel Rincones Jr. play for the Phillies. That'd be cool. Yeah. He comes up, hits a home run, everyone goes nuts. He goes back down. Brandon Marsh comes up, quietly puts together a bunch of higher line drive percentage, gets the ball out of the infield. Great. That'd be great. I think, you got to be open to more things in year 4. You have to. I don't see how you can't see the same things happening and think, what we should do is something different. And obviously players are built into routines, and we all know Rob Thompson has, as I was saying earlier, kind of locked in a couple of ways, but you can make adjustments that are small to medium, that don't completely change the course of the franchise's history or anything. And just to kind of see what happens, because like we said, the offense isn't going to fix itself, and you can, okay, they're professionals. I want to try to give them credit. Maybe they're going to make adjustments, and we've read plenty of feature stories about guys who made adjustments and pulled out of slumps. Fine. But ultimately, this offense is what it is. We've spent years saying that, and it's still true. So try some new things. Try some weird stuff. Why not? Nobody liked Chip Kelly by the time he left here, but every time he grabbed that binder that just said weird stuff on the front, we all got very giddy.
Yes, we did.
It's totally on the table.
And I think that's the thing here is that everything should be on the table. This is this core group's last chance, probably, to do it. Like this is definitely a 1980 type feel to this team. You know, this is a group that's come up short 3 straight times, and with each successive year, come up short one step further away from a World Series title. Like this is probably it. So I would not hesitate, like you said, Justin, to push any button in order to get a change in the mix, because that's what the team said they wanted that at the start of the offseason, couldn't make it happen. So now maybe you're thinking, okay, maybe there's some homegrown guys that can help us change the mix a little bit. But we are still a long ways from doing that on April 14th, but maybe not too long for something like a Brandon Marsh demotion, Liz.
I mean, if they're already sitting him for 3 straight games, he's doing nothing. And
Right.
so the next step after that has got to be demoting him. Like, what do you do after that? Give him an entire week off? I don't think that helps.
Right. No, I think if he comes back from this 3-day break and it's more the same, then you move on to plan B with Brandon Marsh, because again, going second half last year, he hit .231 with a .307 on base and a .396 slugging. It's an OPS just barely over 700. This is not a new situation with Brandon Marsh. Lefties and righties alike, he has been swinging and missing way too much and just not putting together.
I think
what
if
is
your
our
slugging
concern level on a
percentage
scale
is
of 1
under 400, they shouldn't even call it slugging percentage. They
Right.
should call it like a trying percentage.
Yeah, that's a a good point. Fair enough. As part of your new duties with Saber, Liz, we might be able to work this into the lexicon. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. We're gonna have all bunch of new stats for you
Yeah.
to tell
Yeah.
your new friends.
Yeah. Nerds.
Very
Nerd it up.
excited.
On a scale of 1 to 10, what's your concern level over Brandon Marsh, Liz?
It's not low. I'll say that much. We're on games, 17, 18, 19, and he's going to be sitting for all of them, or however many, and that's tough. They're clearly worried about him too, or they wouldn't be giving him 3 straight games off 2 weeks into the season. So, scale of 1 to 10, I'm probably like a 6 or a 7.
Okay. Justin?
You go 0 for 10, you're not hitting. You go 0 for 15, you're doing something wrong. You go 0 for 26, you're having mental skills problems, and that's where you start getting into some real dark stuff and real longer term stuff as far as like not hitting the ball goes, and the pressure you're putting on yourself, and you're all inside your own head, and you're not going to be able to do it, which is why the 3 games off thing kind of makes sense. It does still feel drastic because again 3 is a lot.
Yeah.
And Brandon Marsh is my favorite player, which I will keep reminding people. Brandon Marsh is still my favorite player because, favorite player means more than just he's the best. It means like, I just dig his vibe. I think it's great. Stay loose and sexy. It's the coolest thing the Phillies have done in years, including going to the World Series. But 0 for 26. Yeah, buddy. My concern level is about 14 or 15 out of 10 because that's real bad. And you got to, there's measures have to be taken. And I know that this is a measure, but Brandon Marsh has to take measures. And I'm sure, he's doing that. I'm not in the room with him, but that's a concerning amount of hitlessness. And you got to be a bigger part of the offense than that. And, the deeper that hitless streak goes, the deeper the hole is you're going to have to climb out of. So that's why every day without a hit was another number higher on that concern meter.
And while 0 for 26 is definitely cause for concern, again, going back to the second half of last year, it's been a rough sledding. It's been real rough sledding for Brandon Marsh. I'm at about a 9 with Brandon Marsh. I really am. I'm concerned.
I'll update my number and make it higher.
Okay.
For the official record, which we're definitely keeping.
I appreciate the attempt though at soft pedaling it for the vibes of the podcast. That is helpful, but I agree with you.
You had me go first, and I was concerned I was going to get scolded.
Yeah. By the way, Johan Rojas hitting in his place tonight has struck out his last 2 at-bats with a runner in scoring position here. Just great stuff all around from the Phillies outfield. Speaking of which, let me move on to Max Kepler.
Hit a double while I was talking earlier, just before we go down that road.
He did double. He's still sitting on second base as we speak after his
thanks to my faith in Max Kepler, he's about to be stranded at third base. So you're welcome.
it is important to note that Justin's support of Max Kepler has done that. It has also been a rough go for Max Kepler after despite the swing change in spring training that was going to unleash a 1,000 OPS, it has not translated up north. The homer parade we saw down in Clearwater has not continued at the big league level. Max has remained healthy. He's played a good defensive left field, and he has walked a good bit, a good eye at the plate. But not, again, a good double here in this game here on Monday night. He's gotten on base a couple of times, so hopefully he's getting back on the right track. But Justin, as the head of the Max Kepler fan club, I was curious what your rating is on a level of 1 to 10 of concern over Max Kepler.
This is not me backpedaling when I say I've never been like, oh, Max Kepler, I believe. It's more of antagonizing John.
Yes, that's
for
more
the
what it
record.
is. Yeah,
just for the recorded record. I want everyone to know that.
Noted Kepler hater. Yeah,
looks bad, seems bad. Not great. You know, this is bad baseball coming from Max Kepler, coming from the whole Phillies outfield, but also Max Kepler. Hit the ball, man. Hit the ball. Do something with the ball. Put the ball in play. You know, get on base. You know, that was great. He did just get stranded at third while I was talking, but yeah, he is. That was not his fault. But at the end of the day, yeah, I mean, I don't know what to tell you, Max. Better. We need better. They signed you to be better. You know, the Phillies were saying, hey, we believe in you at least a little more than other teams that aren't willing to sign you. We believe in you enough to say you're our everyday left fielder. We believe in you enough to put you in a position you've never played every day in the major league level. That's quite a lot of belief right there. That's a lot of faith. And how are you rewarding us? A double and getting stranded at third.
With a that double, with a 229 batting average and a 681 OPS through three plate appearances here on Monday night.
Nothing much to say except that's got to be better, Max. You know, as far as the Phillies bounce back candidates go, they're kind of 1 for 3 on that front. With Jesus Luzardo looking like a real champ out there. And the other two guys they brought in to play big roles, not really doing that. And again, this is the area where you can still say it's early. You know, anything related to 2025 specifically, like statistically, it is still early. It is way too early to be truly terrified of anything. But all you can do at this point is just say, yeah, that's got to be better, man. That's got to be better because you're playing too big a role for this to be all you are.
Liz, 8-hole hitter Alec Boehm back in the lineup here on Monday night. 1 for 3 with a strikeout here in this game as we speak. Now batting a robust 159 on the season with a 362 OPS. In terms of all major league position players, Alec Boehm ranks last in wins above replacement. What is your level of concern on a scale of 1 to 10 of the long-haired former starting third baseman for the National League All-Star team last year, Alec Boehm?
I wonder how much his defense is contributing to that WAR rating.
It's not
how
helping.
much it's
you tell us, Saber President.
Negative.
Oh, it's negative. It is negative. It's like negative 0.7.
Oh my God, nothing makes sense anymore. I don't know what to tell you about Alec Boehm. I think your question was, what do you make of it? And it's, I don't know. It's sad.
Well, level of concern really is where I'm kind of fishing here. What's your level of concern on Alec Boehm at this point? Scale of 1 to 10.
High.
Yeah.
It's real high. Do I have a number? No, it's way up there though. Pick a number. It's up there. It's higher than that.
8.65.
It's higher.
Definitely
higher than that.
Okay. All right. Yeah, that's about where I am on a Boehm. He's lost. And that's, I think, and I think if you're talking about the hitters, that's where the concern is with Kevin Long. Is like they look lost. They none of them look like they have any answers right now. Like just looking at some of these, even Bryson Stott, who has kind of avoided a lot of criticism so far this year, 255 with a 706 OPS. It's like that's in this lineup, productive overall, MVP. Pretty mediocre. You know, that's kind of a mediocre line. Trey Turner actually hitting lower than Bryson Stott, a 245 average with a 680 OPS for Trey Turner so far. He's escaped criticism for the most part because he hasn't been as bad. Bryce Harper's down to 237 with the batting average. Now his OPS is 730 because he's got a little pop and he's walked a little bit. JT Realmuto down to 227 on the season with a 615 OPS. I mean, there's a lot of guys here who aren't doing much, but again, is it first week stuff? Is this for some of these guys it's probably just first week stuff. For other guys it's gone back to last year. That's what's kind of so fun with this conversation, that the putting the
We have no idea.
Yeah.
Who is hitting right now?
His name is,
Schwarber, Castellanos,
and Kyle Schwarber. That's it.
Castellanos Blastianos one earlier in the podcast as well. So that was kind of nice to see. And yeah, you said Edmundo Sosa, right? He is also. So that's the offense.
I didn't mention him, but yes, he is hitting. He is hitting well. So.
The offense is two guys who are almost famous for having their offensive success compartmentalized to months, and the utility infielder. That's right. The Phillies offense.
That's the Philly offense right now. I do want to ask you about a couple of the pitchers and levels of concern. Let me start with Zach Wheeler, who has not had a good outing each of the last two times out. 6 innings against the Cardinals over the weekend. Gave up 4 runs on 7 hits. Gave up a home run. Only struck out 3 in 6 innings of work. The ERA now for Zach Wheeler 4.07 on the season. He had strung together, I think it was something like 20 some odd consecutive quality starts, or starts of 6 innings and 2 earned runs or less, or something like that, like an unprecedented run for Zach Wheeler. And now he has had 2 consecutive non-quality starts for the first time, I think in like 4 years or something like that. So Zach Wheeler another year older. I mean, there's always a little bit of concern about Zach Wheeler maybe, but again, my level of concern over Zach Wheeler is low. It's still early in the season. He hasn't looked like his normal self like he did early in the season, his first 2 starts, but I tend to think he'll pick it back up. My level of concern over Zach Wheeler is about a 2 at the moment. Justin, what are you thinking about Zach Wheeler at the moment?
Yeah, it's definitely entered my head, but I'll meet you down there in the sub 5 zone. I'll just differentiate. I'll say 3, just because it felt pretty early in the year to at all be thinking, wow, what's wrong with Wheeler? But yeah, I think that's more about the trust in Wheeler as the kind of player he is and the reputation he has, that like, yeah, I mean, things can work out. But I want to be able to talk about something right. Yeah. This is yet another thing that's like kind of wrong, but at least in Wheeler's case, it's not all the way wrong.
I have a list of good developments coming, so we can kind of scoot past this part a little bit too here. Yeah. Liz, I'll ask you about one other person, though, and that's Aaron Nola. Aaron Nola has, I don't know, how has Aaron Nola looked to you so far this year? It's been...
all right, now that was an eye roll for the record.
Everybody likes talking about Aaron Nola. And Aaron Nola on the season, I'm trying to find his number so far. 5.51 ERA for Aaron Nola. 5 innings his last time out against the Cardinals. Only gave up 2 runs, walked 4, struck out 7. A better outing for him against St. Louis, but the velocity is down. We kind of see this from him in odd years where his velocity is lower than it normally is, and we keep hearing conversations like, "Oh, we think it's going to get back up there. Oh, he's going to come around. Oh, the velocity is going to get back up there." And will it?
Like, I've got faith that Zach Wheeler will find it again. He'll find his stuff again. I've got less of that feeling about Aaron Nola. Not that he's done or anything like that, but just I don't have the same amount of trust that he'll be able to find the good version of himself again, since we haven't even really seen it this season yet. It's early. I feel like we need a button that says that. We hit it and it says it in a funny voice. But it's early and there's more time.
It's early.
Exactly. Thank you.
Deeper,
Justin? Should that have been deeper?
No, it's just like win games, throw strikes, get hits, win games, please. Otherwise, this is the show.
Do things.
Nobody wants this for another 4 months.
It's really, it just comes down to doing things, like, as opposed to not doing things. Like, my own personal motto is that I will always regret more not doing something than doing it. And that has proven to be true in my life. So the Phillies should just apply that to the game.
Yeah.
Do something.
And I think that's what we were saying at the beginning of the podcast. It just feels like something needs to happen with this group. Like we've been seeing the same group for 4 years now. The same problems are persisting. Where it feels like a replay of the second half of last year. Like something. It feels like something needs to happen. Like we're seeing little things happen. Like Bryson Stott at the top of the lineup. You're going to bat Harper and Schwarber together in the lineup. You're going to move Bohm down to 7. You're going to sit Brandon Marsh for 3 days. Like we're seeing like the little stuff. We're trying to make little changes without making big changes. Maybe this will push them across the finish line. And eventually at some point you realize, just dabbling around the edges doesn't really make the picture look any different.
You know who used to be here, who's not here, and was always good for a thing? Garrett Stubbs.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Listen, I'm not saying that's the answer, but I did say earlier, I guess it was still the offseason, that the Phillies shouldn't go into this fourth iteration of this team with this over-serious, unfinished business, tooth-grinding, like relentless grimness. They need a thing. They can't have it be dancing on their own, but something in that same level of thing. And you remember years ago when it was Brad Miller, Bamboo Plan, and Curveball Machine, which was just so bizarre and out of nowhere that it was like, oh, this is just us being so eager to have a team like with a thing that's like good enough to have a thing, like be good and have a thing. And it never really was. It was just that was, just trying to force it. But Stubbs was here. None of that stuff was forced. That all came very naturally. They were like, "Why did you like that song?" He's like, "I don't know. It's a good song. We like
it's a banger."
it." And
what do you know?
that was
what
it.
Do you say?
And you need that energy, whether it's from Stubbs or not. But you need that energy. You need that looseness. Otherwise, you get guys who, get all up in their own heads and go 0 for 26, or guys who've been hitting their whole lives and aren't really hitting right now.
Yeah,
and that is something that can be helpful, and Stubbs was always the ringleader of that. But again, it doesn't have to be him, but that level of thing is something that this team could really use. The tragic part is I do think it has to happen organically for it to be like truly effective. It has to be a genuine, oh yeah, we just started doing this like thing and now it's like our thing. If you try to force it, it's not going to work.
All right, I'm going to read a list of 4 things that were good that have been taking place over the last week or so, and I want you guys to choose the one you like best and talk about it, all right? So here's the first one. Jordan Romano's last 2 outings, the velocity up to 96 miles an hour, 95, 96 in his last 2 scoreless outings. They did find a mechanical flaw that was apparently sapping 2 miles an hour from his fastball. He's been much more effective his last couple of times out, so that is potentially some very good news for the back of a bullpen that has been struggling a little bit here in the early going. Jose Alvarado continues to be one of the top relief pitchers in baseball, and actually ESPN's Cy Young predictor, which I kind of think is a load of horse hockey anyway. But he leads ESPN's Cy Young predictor here.
Yeah, in between Stephen A. Smith segments, ESPN is really putting together a very smart baseball computer. Sure, absolutely.
It's I think it's still powered by Harold Reynolds, even though he's not there anymore. They've got the Harold Reynolds crank, or the AI Harold Reynolds is there. But Jose Alvarado having a fantastic year. Yeah, exactly. Christopher Sanchez and Jesus Luzardo are still dominating. They had very good outings, their last 2 outings. Right now, they're pitching the best of anybody on the team. So you've got 2 of the best young left-handed starters in baseball, specifically Luzardo, who has been nearly unhittable since the season began. And then I want to talk about little Nick Castellanos. Offensively, there are very few bright spots, but Castellanos went deep. He's really had one bad game where he chased a bunch. I think it was in Atlanta. He had like a 4 or 5 strikeout game. Other than that, he's been controlling the strike zone, hitting for power, kind of looking like pre-2022 Nick Castellanos here in the early going. Very encouraging stuff from him. So, Liz, let me start with you. Of those 4 things, Romano, Alvarado, the duo of Sanchez, Luzardo, or Nick Castellanos, pick one. Your favorite development that's positive here so far this season.
I would say... Oh, that's a tough choice. I'm going to go with Castellanos just because we've needed, because I like him. I like him and I want him to do well, but the Phillies have needed sort of an offensive lift, and they need someone to do it. And I think if there's going to be a guy who could be contagious with it, it's Castellanos, from his demeanor and the way he does things. To get other guys hitting as well.
Well, right, and you could argue his development has been, or like his production has been most important because nobody else is hitting outside of Kyle Schwarber, and even Schwarber's cooled off a little bit. So, perfectly good one. Castellanos, very good. Justin, your turn.
I was recently talking to a Marlins writer, and the question came up of like, all right, everything you've seen from Jesus Luzardo so far this year, is this anything that's like surprised you, or been more of a bummer for people because obviously that you traded with the Marlins for him, but yeah, he was like, this isn't like a nightmare scenario. This is what was expected because Jesus Luzardo is a hell of a pitcher, and he's joining a very strong rotation. And this is not crazy for the people who've been watching Jesus Luzardo for years. This is not strange at all. This is how this was supposed to go, and this is why this was such a good move. I feel like as much frustration as there is out there and in here in this episode, it's totally valid, absolutely, for the way this team played against the Cardinals specifically. I don't know if I've ever seen them. I don't know if I've ever seen them play as listless and tired and sad as they played against the Cardinals. That was a pathetic effort.
It was so bad.
But in that case, you got to lean into your strengths. And, we're sitting here talking about what's working. Like three guys offensively are kind of, having any kind of offensive success right now. And this team was always built to be pitching first, and making that strength stronger with Jesus Luzardo has clearly proven to be the smart move because, you're starting to see not a less dominant Zach Wheeler to start the season. You got a couple of wobbly looking Aaron Nola starts to start the season. That's where that depth comes in handy because it's actually depth. It's not just, we signed a sixth guy who can start games. That's depth, right? Like, well, no, because that guy has an 8.67 ERA from AAA last year. So no, that's not depth. Jesus Luzardo is actually depth because he's another guy who would probably be leading rotations elsewhere. And around here, he's just another guy who could be an ace somewhere else. So that's been hugely beneficial for this team because you get that guy, not just because you're imagining 4 or even 5 starters all going deep into games and giving you great performances on a regular basis, but because when they're not, you still have other options. And Luzardo and Sanchez being those other options right now, it still gives you the stability that you're not getting anywhere else almost on the entire team. So Luzardo is just proving time and time again that he was unquestionably the smartest move they made this offseason, and the biggest move, and a really important one.
Definitely 100% great trade by Dave Dombrowski. And like I said, I wouldn't be at all surprised if a contract extension comes for him sooner rather than later in order to keep him around and try and get him at a price that's better now than it will be next year when he's a pending free agent. I'll just go, since you guys have taken 2 good ones, I'll say Jordan Romano's last 2 outings have been very encouraging. I think that was a really important development over the course of the last week. They need him in the back of the bullpen as their top right-handed guy, especially watching Jeff Hoffman pitch for Toronto right now. He's doing quite well north of the border. So this needs to work. This little experiment the Phillies have foisted upon themselves, and so we will see if it does. All right, let's wrap things up here for this edition of Hittin' Season, but let's move on to some final thoughts as we wrap up. Justin, any final thoughts from you?
Simply that there is a new dirty inning this month. It is about 2004, which is a season I've learned since the episode came out that more Phillies fans have more frustration about than potentially any year we've done a dirty inning about ever. And this particular episode was about a totally disastrous 10-game homestand that, given people's familiarity with this team, everyone's going to know exactly what I'm talking about. But we had a lot of fun talking about this absolutely horrid 1-9 homestand that the 2004 Phillies had right at the time when the "are we going to fire Larry Boa" conversation was at its hottest. And you know what? I would love to say it's a great lesson in, watching a team at its lowest and then seeing them ultimately come together, because obviously the 2004 Phillies did not come together and accomplish anything playoff-wise. But you did see plenty of names in that mix, like a very young Jimmy Rollins and a very, very young Chase Utley, come up. And we even say in the episode, if you told people at the end of that 2004 season, or even just at the end of that horrible homestand, that in less than 2 years they'd be in the playoffs, and in less than 3 years they'd be World Series champions, would they have believed you? Would it have just seemed like an alien statement? Yeah, probably. It seemed like an alien thing to be happening when it was happening. But like, that's how baseball works, and it's a long season. It's April 14th, blah blah blah. But there's plenty of lessons to be taken from a team suffering like that, or suffering like the Phillies are now, and realizing that this things do. Baseball changes fast. It's a slow game that changes fast, and the 2004 Phillies did not teach us that, but that is the team we talked about on the Dirty Inning recently.
Yeah, well, that should be a good one. Make sure I remember 2004 like it was yesterday for sure, and that was a frustrating homestand. I remember that homestand. I remember almost every game in that homestand for sure. And again, it is April 14th. You're right. Everybody who's saying that out there, who's muttering that, who's screaming at their Apple CarPlay as you're listening to this podcast, it's April 14th. What's the matter with you people? We get it. It is April 14th. They started 7-7 last year before they went on that crazy early season run. So it is possible for things to turn around in a heartbeat. This team could hit at any moment. So,
and the other side of that is also that if you feel like you're at your wit's end, that also makes sense and is valid completely.
And we're here for you too for that feeling as well. All thoughts and feelings are valid here on the Greater Hittin' Season podcast. Liz, any final thoughts from you?
I just want to make an appeal to everybody to join Sabre. I have an update on the cost. It's actually $80 a year, but $55 for a young professional and $25 for students. You get the Baseball Journal as an ebook twice a year, and you get 65% off the $19.95 cover price, the retail price. In addition to that, you get all sorts of incredible resources for research. You get newsletters, join your regional chapter, and join a community of other baseball people near you. You can go to sabre.org and you can join today. Please do.
Well, make sure you do that, kids, and we will wrap up this podcast. Say that again, Liz. I'm sorry, you broke up. I want to hear that one more time.
Oh, there's the convention every summer, which is some of my best baseball memories are made at the conventions. That is not free to be a member, but you get to come. You get to be invited and pay to have one of the best weekends you'll have.
That is on my bucket list. I would like to do that at some point. But we will end the podcast on a note of JT Realmuto missing a 3-run home run that would have brought the Phillies to within 8-7 by mere feet, inches, perhaps even. And so we will leave that hanging with you all as a marker for where we are finishing up this fine podcast. That's going to do it for this edition of Hittin' Season. Hopefully, when we speak midweek, we will have better news to tell. Until then, make sure you're checking out Sabre. Make sure you're checking out Baseball Prospectus. You can read my work over at The Good Fight. And don't forget, you can always send us an email at hittinseason@billypenn.com. You can send a voice memo if you want to be a part of the show. Let us know what you think. You have a question, record it on your phone. Email it to hittinseason@billypenn.com and tell your friends and family about Hittin' Season. Despite the record, despite your frustrations, yes, the Phillies are going to win the World Series. I think Justin's a little ahead of me here as we're finishing up this podcast. Did JT?
It's not good.
Oh my gosh, they rung him up. They rung him up on that pitch.
That pitch.
Wow.
But
that's how things are going. JT Realmuto rung up on a pitch a foot outside, and Rob Thompson's standing in the dugout like he doesn't want to offend the umpire with a crossword or an upset tone. That
so
pitch
Canadian.
is a good foot off the plate. A 3-2 pitch, a good foot off the plate. Rob Thompson, where are you? Why are you not? Okay, I know we were ending the podcast, but
what are we doing?
Can we just
here?
For a second?
I'm ready to get thrown out of this game.
How are you not out of the dugout in the umpire's face there? Like, this team is a zombie right now. Your guy just got rung up on a pitch blatantly a foot outside, and you're standing there in the dugout chewing your gum, looking like you're afraid to talk to the umpire because he's going to get mad at you. What are we doing here?
You just watched your catcher, who's the human equivalent of a fitted bed sheet, expression, like emotionally, just freak out, grab his head and scream at the heavens. Like Real Muto never gets into it with anybody. And he's having the reaction like that. Why are you not having a reaction?
I don't know what's happening. Someone has got to talk to that man and find out why he's like that, because that's a weird thing. I don't like that.
I'm as big a Rob Thompson fan as there is out there. There is no world in which he should not have gotten thrown out of that game. None.
Well, they're at commercial. Maybe he's getting dragged off the field as we speak. But
I highly doubt it. It looked like his.
I'm going to guess that Middleton.
This just means this could
have something to say.
This could mean that later in the game we see a makeup ejection where it's like a way less like critical miss by an umpire. And, yep, he's out there. Yep, they just came back. He's out there. He seems very polite, actually. He seems like he's having a polite conversation.
We don't want to make waves.
They're also all looking up at the sky, so maybe they all just saw a fun bird and they're just talking about that.
Yeah,
the lights went out at the stadium. Okay, well, this is banger series for the Phillies.
We're off to a good start. That's how the podcast is going to end. I would tell you to tell your friends and family to subscribe to the podcast for this team that's going to win the World Series in 2025. I'm just saying it. And now the lights went out at Citizens Bank Park. The lights are going out on this podcast. Goodbye, everybody. We'll see you at midweek. Thanks for listening. Talk to you next time right here on Hittin' Season.